everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Pink Pill. I am your host, Jame Lynn, and I have Mac Lawson here with me today. Welcome, Mac.
Hi.
Mac, you are, I feel like you're a kindred spirit for me, but we kind of connected via Instagram. How did we even start talking? I don't even know. I think you
was talking shit about
I think
somebody
we
on your
kind of
podcast.
connected over the red pill stuff, and you were just like going in, and I was like, I need to know who this girl is.
I need to befriend
but
her.
you are also a comedian. You live in Miami, and you also have your own podcast called Mac After Dark.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I'm only about 10 episodes in, but it's been going pretty well. We've had quite a lot of clips go viral so far. So
Yeah, I think you're hilarious.
Oh, thank you.
I love having smart, funny girls on here.
Oh,
it's
thanks.
just it's
so threatening if you're a man.
it's so offended if you're a man.
Unattractive.
But I want my viewers to kind of familiarize themselves with you a little bit and some of your material. We kind of touched. How did you get into comedy? Actually,
I actually had a brain injury. So
you had a brain injury?
Yeah, I had a brain injury. It was through an assault. Kind of a long story, but when I was healing and I had the concussion, I used the internet to kind of make myself laugh. And I had a bunch of people on the internet tell me to try stand up. And at the time, I was so depressed from my brain injury that I was like, let me just try it. And then I tried it, and I was like, oh, this is my life purpose. So
Wow.
yeah.
That's what you had a brain injury from an assault? Was this
Yeah.
a romantic relationship that you were involved
Yeah,
with?
it was. Yeah.
Wow.
Which I feel comfortable to talk about on your show. Obviously, I didn't feel comfortable talking about it on most other shows. But yeah, it was just a bad night. That got really bad.
Well, I'm glad that you're okay. I think intimate partner violence is such a thing that it happens to so many women, men as well. But I think it can be more damaging for women just because of the physical strength differences.
Exactly. Yeah. And drugs.
Yeah.
Don't do drugs, people.
Well, when we kind of talk about we connected obviously over the red pill stuff, and you actually kind of agreed with them in the beginning, and you actually were invited on their show. Is that correct?
Yeah, so they initially reached out to me, and I was super hesitant because I'd seen some of their stuff, and I didn't really necessarily like it. I also wanted to be portrayed as a comedian. I'm a comedian who has an OnlyFans. I don't have any nudity on my OnlyFans, but I knew automatically that I was going to be pushed in that box. I was assured that I wouldn't, and then I showed up, and then I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm definitely gonna be."
So they told you that no, we're not gonna do anything that's gonna embarrass you or
okay. I had the hesitation, and they were like, "Oh, it's not gonna be like that." And then I got there, and just immediately I could tell by the demeanor of the men that it was
kind of like bait and switch.
Just that I just wasn't gonna be treated as an equal, and I think I am actually better than most of them at. Stand-up comedy is hard, so I didn't
Oh my God, yeah. I couldn't imagine.
So I didn't like to be treated as a lesser than in a podcast setting or something
Well,
like
this guy did write a book saying women deserve less.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So anyway, so I got in there. I didn't really like how I was treated. Plus, I tried to dress more conservatively because I didn't want to be painted in a certain way. And then they put me on the sofa, and I was like, I don't need to be on this podcast.
Yeah.
It's not that big of a deal. So then I left. Then they invited me back on another podcast that was supposedly with a stand-up comedian. And when I got there, they hit record, and they didn't talk about comedy. They talked about my age, my body count, all of my past relationships, started calling me crazy, old, unlovable, all these things. And so it turned really bad really quick.
I just feel like that's kind of always their go-to. It's not really when I watch these podcasts, I don't really know what the point is. I really don't know what the point is because I don't feel like they're really providing any education or anything that's actually that helpful, especially not for women.
Yeah.
It's basically saying you're no good. And then it's just you maybe the advice would be to get married young, but that's not really healthy advice either because there's no guarantee that guy's going to stay with her until whatever or who's to say that he doesn't, if you go by their stats, trade her out for somebody younger when she reaches a certain age.
Yeah, or after she has your kids, which is what usually happens.
I just don't know what the point is, and saying you're too old, you're too this, you're too this, you're too what are they actually trying to do aside from devaluing or, attacking a person's character or their spirit. I don't see any value in these shows.
Well, the thing about it for me is if you want to reduce a woman down to her ability to bear children, shouldn't you as a man reduce your value down to your ability to be a father for that children? And not once do I hear them talking about being a good father on that show. And I wanted to go on that show because I grew up in a pretty conservative household, and I was actually a virgin until I was 22. Which we were talking about in there. And eventually I just was treated like such a freak by the men that I was dating that I decided to go ahead and just do it.
What do you mean you were treated like a freak? For being a virgin?
Yeah, they would just get so creeped out by it. And so I got ghosted a couple times by guys I really liked. And I'm pretty sure my first love broke up with me because he knew that I was waiting for marriage. I don't know. I can't validate that. Maybe you can let me know. But yeah, so I've lived that life, and there are parts of that life that are great if they work out. But 99% of the time, that's just not reality of how it works out. And so my first relationship that I was in, I was all the things that these red pill guys like, right? I was I wouldn't go out.
You were young, number one.
I was very young, and I was very inexperienced. I was, like I said, a virgin. So this was one of my first sexual partners.
I mean, this is like everything that they could ever want.
Oh, I was their dream. And that's why I was so excited to go on there and talk to them and be like, hey, like, okay, yes, I understand this, this, and this, but this is what happened to me, and this is why this doesn't work. But that's not what they wanted. They just want to call me old. Which, I mean, I guess I am. I got like 2 years left. I got to freeze my eggs, but whatever, I'll freeze them. I have money. But yeah, so I lived that life that they kind of glorify. And I was everything that they say a girl should be, and I still didn't make the guy I was with happy. So I just think that it just doesn't always work.
Well, I just think that they miss a lot of things, you know? It's not just like they look at relationships so transactionally. Like, oh, if you're young, if you do this, if you're faithful, then you're somehow going to be happy or you're going to get a man to commit. And that's just not true. Like, and then they blame women for being the cause of divorce. They're like, well, women initiate 70% of the divorces. Well, that actually is here's where red pill gets things wrong. That actually is a true stat. They do, but do you want to know why?
Infidelity or probably abuse.
The number one reason why is because they're not helping in the home.
The men?
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
That's actually the number one reason. And then after that, it's usually like infidelity or even, abuse is on there as well. But the number one reason is not enough help in the home. And so that's a big burden on a woman, you know, and for them to, they misrepresent. They're like, well, women are leaving relationships. Well, do you know why they're leaving? Like, you need to look at it within the context, but it doesn't seem like they're actually open to fixing it. They're not interested in the solution. What they're interested in is your fault finding, right? So like, you need to pay attention to somebody being solution focused versus somebody fault finding. And red pill is all about finding fault, and they offer no solutions.
Well, and men like that are the type of men that get divorced because they're fault finding in their marriages. Yeah. So they're going straight towards their target audience. Yeah. The men who are recently divorced. Because that's the type of man that you're going to leave, is somebody who will not work things through with you.
Right. Or a lack of communication, or even feels entitled, right? Like relationships need to be, reciprocal. And I think where a red pill comes in is they're like, well, my job is to be a provider and a protector. Well, that's great, and I'm sure that a lot of women would do that, but a lot of men actually aren't fulfilling that role.
But in which way? Like, in which way are they even protecting these women? Because they're not protecting them emotionally, and for me, at least, my dad didn't do everything right, but I knew how to be treated.
Yeah. Emotionally. I like that distinction that you make, because there are different levels to protection, right? It's not just your physical safety. But I do hear them make this comparison, and you can tell me what you think about this. They're like, well, if somebody breaks in, it's me that's going to have to fight them, and it's me that's going to have to do this. And if you're on the street and you get harassed, it's me that's going to have to, protect you. And I'm the one putting my life at risk. So because I put my life on the risk, or have the potential to put my life on the risk, you need to be submissive to me. You need to listen to me. You need to follow my instructions. You need to serve me. And to me, that doesn't really sound like a fair trade because like it's the potential. First of all, we're living in a different society nowadays where what are the chances are they're going to have to really actually fight somebody off?
They probably wouldn't, because in most states you would just go to jail even if you're defending yourself.
Most states you just call the police, men included. Like I think most men would actually call the police, not be like, let me protect my woman. Like it just doesn't really play out that way. So they're creating a very unrealistic example, and they're asking you to pick from an example that's not realistic or reflective of how things play out. And they're saying pick between this bad example and this bad example, and then you have people picking, and they're like, see.
Yeah, it's all, there's no winning on those.
Yeah,
shows.
you really can't. And so, but like if we actually look at how things play out, like a woman is making this sacrifice on a daily basis, child rearing on a daily basis, and serving her husband, meeting his needs sexually, making him a sandwich. I'm using their words, by the way. Like serving me sex in a sandwich is something that they say.
I don't mind making my man having sex with him and making a sandwich.
I don't think most women would, but I think what they're looking for is reciprocity.
Yeah.
They don't want to be a slave. It's the, what are you all, like, how are you ministering to me? How are you pouring into this relationship as well? And if your answer is I'll fight off a bad guy, that's just not good enough.
Well, that's not the type of man that I'm going to make a sandwich for. It's going to be a man that's like holding me while I'm crying.
Yeah.
The man and those men are not capable of doing that for a woman. And that's the ultimate type of protection that a man is meant to have for a woman. He's supposed to take over the place of the father. Which my father didn't do everything perfectly, but he did a good enough job for me to know what it does and doesn't look like. And one of the reasons why I'm not married is because of the few men that I've had that connection with, which is not a lot. I don't want to get married until I have that connection, until I can see that man as a father. But that's the ultimate type of protection that women are looking for, and they're not getting it at all. At all in this society. It's very, very hard to find a man who can offer that.
Like that emotional security.
Yeah, and I don't want somebody to cry with me, but it's more about just protecting me as a whole person, not just physically. And
what would that look like if somebody protecting you? Because I think a lot of men don't actually know.
Well, one thing is honoring me. And that's not just to say sexually. It could be, maybe somebody did something bad to me and really hurt me, and you standing up for me. I don't know what that, I can't think of an example, but you kind of get what I'm saying.
I do. I think it's somebody that has your back.
Yes.
Somebody that is your advocate, right?
Yeah.
Like, that they're there to support you and encourage you as well. They're happy with your success. They give you, I think freedom is actually a really important piece that I don't really talk about. They give you the freedom to flow, the freedom to grow, the freedom to move. That's a sign of a very healthy relationship. When relationships become too restrictive, it can become controlling and possessive.
And I think one thing that's great about men, that I love about men, is that they are able to be so rational most of the time. Sometimes they're not, but most of the time they are. And maybe it has to do with the hormone fluctuations that we have. But it's really nice to have a man to go to, whether it's a friend or hopefully a significant other, where you can kind of just throw everything at them and they can say, okay, here's the solution, or, what do you need right now? Or let me put that in perspective for you. So those are the things that I think most women are actually looking for. And honesty, too, I think is a really important thing.
I think women really crave stability.
Yeah.
It's not just about how much money the guy has. It's about, is he a reliable person? I think that matters more. Is he a man of his word? Like, if he says he's going to do something, will he actually do that?
Yeah.
Like, women pay really close attention to those things. And this is actually like how you build and you earn trust. So those character traits are really undervalued in the red pill community, and they tend to focus more on muscles, money, and women.
This is so stupid.
Yeah, that's really dumb. Because really, like, what you're doing is you're just teaching people how to fake the funk, and you're not actually teaching them how to be good husbands or good lovers or good partners
or good men. Those aren't good men. I mean, a good man is not just strong and great at finding women to have sex with. That's not impressive. To me, a good man is a good father. and a good leader. And I think we've lost touch with that in society. And when they initially invited me on, why I even considered it is because I was excited to share this message, because it's something that I do feel really passionate about. And I do feel passionate about the family unit. I don't have one, but it doesn't mean that I don't respect the importance of the family unit. But the family unit is not just the mom and the kids. The father is the head of the household. And that means you have to, it's not just even about your wife. You have to be a good example to your daughter and to your sons. And that means treating your wife with respect. And I think none of that is even thought about on these podcasts, because honestly, these men on these podcasts are not capable of being any of those things. And I know because I've met them in person, and they're just really bad vibes.
What was it like kind of going into, the Fresh and Fit podcast, and like, what did you experience?
Just being treated like cattle. And then I wasn't half naked, and, there were fucking 21-year-olds, sorry for cussing, but there were like 21-year-olds in there, and I thought I was being brought on as a comedian, but then I was like, oh, I know exactly where this is going. Mm-hmm. And, I did say that they're not capable of that. That's wrong. Anybody's capable of making a change, but the direction that they're going in, they're not the example of good stand-up quality men. And, I grew up in the South, and I had good men around me. And so I think that, I just think that whole thing is just so laughable.
I mean, have any of them even had a girlfriend?
I don't know. I honestly tried to just forget about it.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I'd want to block it out too.
I tried not to learn too much more about it after that experience. Yeah. I got invited on a couple more shows, and I just told them, like, no, it's not where I'm trying to go with it. But I'm sure they have, and I think that they're tapping into a really hurt part of the online community, men that have maybe some men that have been treated really bad by women. There are bad women out there. So they're just tapping into, like, it's a trigger happy part of the internet that's just really angry, just ready to rage.
Like, there's a market for it, right? Like, there are a lot of men that are not sleeping or having sexual partners that want to. But guys, you're not owed vagina. Okay, you're not. Like, even if, like, they're like, you have to always kind of start inward instead of like what happens is I see this anger being projected onto women. Mm-hmm. Their unsuccess, their inability to secure sexual partners or have romantic relationships. It's now the woman's fault, and they're failing to look within themselves about things that they need to do differently to possibly attract a partner or grow. Mm-hmm. And instead, it's your fault that I didn't get this. And I'm not saying that's everybody in the red pill community, but I see that a lot where it's just like, it's your fault. I'm mad at you, and there's an air of entitlement that I deserve this, that I should have access to this, and you don't. Mm-hmm. None of us are owed anything from anybody in this world.
Well, I think that's the biggest sign of the most cowardly type of low-level masculine men that you could have, that is blaming every problem in the world on women. You're a man. You're supposed to be a leader, and you're saying your whole entire existence is around shaming women. Do you know what typically drives a woman to start being sexually promiscuous? It's usually trauma or lack of a strong father figure. Mm-hmm. So what does that trace back to? Men. If you want to make women better, be better men. That's just it.
I feel like it's in this community, they don't really extend any grace to women. Yeah. They will bash women for being single moms. They will bash women for having an OnlyFans. And they have a lot of empathy for, men that are incels. They have a lot of empathy for that, but then they don't have empathy for intimate partner violence. That's something that I never hear them talk about on the show. And that's a real thing. Like, that's a huge thing. Do you know that that's the second highest way that women die? The first is heart disease.
Almost died.
The second highest is intimate partner violence. And that's a woman dying, not a man dying. That's a woman dying.
Yeah.
And that's a real, like, that's a, like, where is the empathy for, like, you want to talk about gender roles, you want to talk about modern dating. Why aren't you talking about intimate partner violence?
Because a lot of these guys are on testosterone and probably have it in their past. So they can't talk about it, because if they started talking about it, then somebody would come up and say, oh, I remember when you hit me. So that's what I think. Not all of them. I mean, I don't know, obviously, but
I'd like to see them start to discuss like some real topics. Not just about a woman's body count and name 5 countries, because they do dumb shit like that.
Oh, really?
What? Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like they had, they did it here actually, where they're like, they'll go around the room, like Fresh and Fit was here, and they're like, name 5 countries.
That's funny.
Yeah. The only point of doing that though is to paint a woman in a negative light.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only point of that. And the sad thing is that I see women go along with it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you would be better off calling out the nasty behavior.
Yeah.
Like, what's the point of this? And the point is, and they'll say, well, it's because women can get away with not knowing.
True. I mean, it's true. We can. I mean, we can get away. Women can get away with a lot more.
Okay, and guys can walk to the car and feel safe.
Yeah, it's we're different. We're built different. I mean, if I just wanted to stay with my first boyfriend who treated me terribly and was abusive and cheated all the time, I could have just done whatever I wanted. He had a lot of money, and I could have gotten away without learning anything or doing anything and just enjoyed my life. I could have, but I just don't. You're right. What's the point of that? What is that?
Well, like, why are they knocking? Everything is about. There's like double standards that they have in the red pill community, where they're like, they're mad at women for being sexual, yet that's what they're after, and women are sexualized.
This gets me worked up, actually.
Yeah,
because it's like. This is like my experience, right?
Yeah.
I was a virgin for so long. That's what everybody wants. And I was cute growing up. Like I was everything that everybody could want. And then everyone would just leave me as soon as they found out I was a virgin. Mm-hmm. And then it's like, what do you really want?
Well, they're going to say sex, right? Like this is their double standard though.
Yeah.
Like this is why it doesn't make sense. They're like they think that somehow, like if you're a virgin and you stay a virgin as a woman, or you have a low body count, that somehow that's going to get you a good man. Look, it might get you a man, but there's no guarantee that that man is going to be good to you.
Yeah.
And these are the things that women are actually evaluating when they're picking partners. Like there's so much blame on women when they're not married or when they haven't had children. What Red Pill will do is they'll look at you and they'll be like, well, what's wrong with you that a man doesn't want to wipe? Yeah, so they're like, well, what's wrong with you?
And I told them, I was like, my ex like wants to get back together with me right now. They're like, no, he doesn't. He just wants to have sex with you. And I'm like, no, he literally is in love with me. Like we can call him right now, but he cheated on me, so it's not going to happen.
See, I believe that that's true, but I wouldn't even answer that question because that is defending something that doesn't need a defense.
Yeah.
Because look, when somebody is saying, explain to me why you're single, they're saying there's a subliminal message within that saying that there's a problem with you as a person for being single, and the other message is that your value is connected to who you're with. I'm sorry, ladies, but it's not. It's not. You're worthy of love. You're an okay person, even if you don't have a dude on your arm. It's okay. There's nothing inherently wrong with you because that's not going on. Also, what they're not considering and what they don't actually talk about is not every guy you meet is going to be a great partner for you.
Exactly.
Like there isn't a woman on this planet that couldn't get wifed up.
Yeah.
She's just not going to be with that person most likely. Like, but there isn't a woman on this planet that probably couldn't get married or get a sexual partner. Like, and I don't think Red Pill would disagree with me on that. Women are single because they're looking for love. Most of them are. Not every woman, but most women are relationship minded, and most women are not just after your money or what you can offer. And so they're investing in these. It's not always going to be a good fit. And also, somebody being married doesn't mean that they're actually in a healthy relationship.
Not at all.
Like,
not at all. And I think also you could be a good fit and that person could not be a good father material, because that happened to me. I met somebody that was very, very good fit. I was so happy, so in love, but I just was like, you could not father kids because of your lifestyle. So
what ruled him out for you?
Partying.
Yeah.
And like old enough that he shouldn't be. And just knowing and having conversation with him that it just wasn't going to change. And so, and then now at my age, I am ready to slow down. I'm going to freeze my eggs just in case, because I at least want to have one kid.
Yeah.
So I'm looking, I think I've always been looking for somebody that would be a good father, but now especially, I'm just real quick to just turn someone away. It's like, if you're not going to be a good dad, I'm not going to waste my time anymore. But I agree with what you're saying too, because you can have somebody that would be a great dad. Like, I have a close friend from back home who got married young, had 4 kids. Her husband is a great father. And they are both extremely unhappy in their marriage. And they've got 4 beautiful kids, but they are miserable with each other because they weren't right.
Yeah, I think we have to stop defining marriage as a successful relationship. That's not a marker.
Yeah, it's not.
Like, that's just not a marker of a successful relationship. Mm-hmm. Also, like, having a dude in your life doesn't mean that you're happy.
Or that he's happy.
Or exactly. Yeah. Like, these things are messages that they're sending that they don't mean anything, you know? Mm-hmm. And these guys, like, I don't know if they've even had anybody that would commit to them or have like a long-term, like, there doesn't seem to be any intimacy mm-hmm. or vulnerability when they discuss relationships. Mm-hmm. And that to me is a very, like, it's a must if you're going to have a healthy relationship. Mm-hmm. If it's just like, this is what I can do for you, this is what you can do for me, that's going to get real old real quick. And mm-hmm. then you're like, it makes everybody kind of replaceable.
Well, it makes everything so robotic. It's not relationships can be sometimes transactional, but they're not meant to be transactional.
Relationships are conditional, and they should be conditional. But yes, you will have those, like OnlyFans would be a transactional relationship. Yeah. But if that's the case, you know what you're signing up for. Like, why are you knocking it?
Well, what they describe as a relationship that they want from a woman is transactional. Oh, I protect you and you serve me. Mm-hmm. And that's just not what a relationship is. I mean, that's not how my friendships work. You know, and one thing too that I want to say about their idea of single moms, most moms don't want to be single. Mm-hmm. And it's definitely not by choice. And I don't really like how they shame older women, because there's a lot of experiences where women do get married young and then they're left and they don't have a career, they don't have money saved up, and they are older, so they're less desirable. And that doesn't mean that they're worthless, though. They've had children.
I don't actually think that they're less desirable. I think that's what red pill will tell women.
I was speaking from the red pill point of view of women, which is not how most men think, by the way.
Yeah, like I've never heard any guy ever like qualify or quantify a woman being like, oh, yep, you're out. Like,
yeah, no,
never.
I think guys are more into me now. I don't know. Maybe I'm delusional. But I think guys have been more into me since I've gotten older. But I don't know. Because I'm more confident.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of beauty that comes with age, for sure. Yeah. Like, there's positive and negatives with all stages of life, you know, young, old, whatever.
Right.
But, you know, when they preach this message that your value is inherently connected to, like, your youth and beauty, like, that's just that. Like, what?
Yeah, if we're at a strip club and we're the strippers, like, what? Like, I'm so confused.
Most men don't think this way, and relationships are, like, beyond looks. Like, if that's the case, if it was just about sex, you know, then, like, men want emotional connection as well.
For sure,
and they don't, you know, like. Yeah. Porn's so popular because they want the girl to look them in the eye, you know, like mm-hmm. they want that connection, they want that intimacy, and mm-hmm. red pill wants that too. If it was just sex, just get a pocket pussy.
Yeah, but they don't know what they want. But then they want sex, they want a young girl for sex, but then they're like, oh, we're gonna go out and have sex with all these girls at the club too, and you've got to be okay with that. So you want to go out and have sex with all the whores, the quote unquote whores, mm-hmm. while you're a good girl. So you like the whores, is what you're saying. Yeah. And I know, by the way, for a fact that those guys on that show actively try to get with the OnlyFans girls.
Oh, I know they do, because I've talked to them, actually. I've talked to
simps for them.
Yeah,
simps.
I have no doubt. Yeah. You know, I think Myron was actually on Ashley Madison, and that's how he recruited. That's how he recruited some of the girls. One of the girls came out openly and talked about it, and she actually called him out on the show because he recruited her on Ashley Madison, and he was like, I want to date you, and she was asking for money. He's like, I'm not going to pay you, and she's like, what are you here for, bro? Jeez. And he's like, I'm not going to pay you, and then he let her come on the podcast. And he likes to kind of like chuck it up as to like, oh, well, this is just how he's recruiting. But even if that's how he's recruiting, he's targeting a certain audience. He's targeting a more vulnerable population, one that might be less capable of defending themselves.
Yeah. All I know is that I know that those guys aren't what they say they are.
To me, it's very clear. Yeah. Like, I look at them and I'm like, they just look like scared little children to me.
Yeah.
Like, I couldn't imagine what they would do being around a strong woman. And strong doesn't mean aggressive, but a woman that is confident, a woman that is secure. I think that those guys would just absolutely not know what to do with themselves because they have to have a certain amount of power and control.
I was just going to say that.
Their self-esteem goes right down the window if they don't have that. They have to have like leverage over women in order for them to feel like, okay, I can be here. I can sit in this room. They don't know how to do that unless they've got something on somebody.
And that's okay. And that's what I was going to say is the dynamic of the podcast was like that. It felt like you were kind of like being hovered over. They're from the moment you walk in, it's like, you can't put that there. You have to put that there. What's that? And like just everything was so controlled. And I wonder how they would do to say if I were to invite them on my podcast to have a one-on-one. I think they would be so squirmish.
I do too. They were
or end up leaving.
Yeah. So they were here filming not too long ago, and Michael Sartain has a podcast here.
I don't know that. I'm just kidding. I do. I blocked him because he's the one that invited me on and lied to me and told me that it was going to be a good experience.
Yeah. So they were doing a show here and they were all three live streaming. Okay. And they did the same thing that you talked about where they were like controlling the room, but they actually cut his episode. They wouldn't let him go live. They totally took control, and it was like his show, their show.
Oh, wow.
And they came in and they took it over, and Michael didn't even know until after the fact.
Yeah, just from a Hollywood perspective, because I live in Miami now, but I lived in Hollywood for a few years. And as soon as I walked in, I was like, no, like this is a trap. I can just tell right away. And so that's why I left. And then they got me, they tricked me. They're like, oh, this comedian wants you to come on. And I was like, oh, comedian. Cool. This guy's not a comedian. He might have done stand-up a couple times. He basically is famous on the internet for just harassing people, like in stores and stuff, like pranks or whatever.
Like, I'm gonna ask you a few things that that are common in the red pill, and I just want to get like your thoughts and your feedback. Okay. So I sent you a reel earlier where Michael was talking about how you can't have female friends. Or wait, what was it? I don't want to misquote it.
Okay.
What was it? It was like a whole thing where he was like, you can't have. Where was it? I wonder if there's a way that can we play it, Chase? Is it possible to play it?
Yeah. So, well,
maybe not.
Not without me just doxing my phone number on the on the show.
Okay, let's see. I'm gonna see.
The music in the background.
Yeah. Just hold it up to the microphone so we can hear it.
Inspirational.
Basketball with my guy friends. You know what I say to them? What a your ball. Ball out. Check ball. Like, just because you're my friends, does that always mean I'm nice to you? No. What guys are doing is that they're trying to make female friends by being nice to women. I am not nice to anyone unless they do something for me, unless they deserve it. Do you guys understand? You're supposed to be nice to people when they deserve it. You're not nice to them because they have big boobies. When you're nice to girls because they're attractive, you're supplicating. You're not putting them in the friend zone. They're putting you in the friend zone. I have never said for men.
So some of what he's saying is right? You shouldn't just be nice to somebody because they're pretty. I mean, that's kind of weird. But the rest of it was just complete and utter bullshit.
Well, I know he's nice to a lot of girls. Like,
that's exactly what he does. He's only nice to girls.
So it's like,
I'm just kidding.
I think
I'm not though.
Like, I'm just like, where is this coming from? Like, I think his advice is so you don't get friend zoned. But like, so what do you do? Punch a girl in the face? Like, what do you? I hate you. Like, what's the alternative?
If you want to date the worst woman in the world,
like, look, this doesn't work. Like, no. So what is your advice? Be mean to them?
If you want to date literally the most insecure, like, girl in the world, yes, listen to him. Because to me, if a guy's mean to me, then I'm just like, oh, well, I'm never talking to him again.
I agree. See, I think that this stuff doesn't work on women that have self-esteem.
Yeah.
Okay. Because
Yeah.
I think where this is headed, and Michael didn't say this in the video, but one of the things that Red Pill talks about is a technique called nagging. And that's bumping women down. That's devaluing.
Oh, that makes sense. That's exactly what they do.
Yeah, so they'll bump them down, and the reason they do that is because psychologically it works. Because if you bump a woman down, psychologically she's more likely to want to please you because she's trying to win your praise, trying to win your approval. So that's the psychology behind what they're doing, and it does actually work, but it doesn't work on high value women. It doesn't work on women that have self-respect, and it doesn't work on women that can recognize unhealthy
Maybe in bed.
behavior. Maybe. Maybe.
It would work on me in bed. That's what I will say. But just only there, nowhere else.
And so these these naggings, these tactics they do, they don't actually if somebody was going to do that to you, I feel like you would run the other way, not in bed.
Yeah. No. They have to be nice to me to get in bed. But
Yeah.
no, if somebody was rude to me, I'll probably be meaner back, and then I would just be like, peace out, bitch.
Yeah, these things don't. My point is this. This is really horrible advice.
It's just horrible. But I mean, I guess it works if you are that bad with women.
Yeah.
It works. And you get the incel community on the internet is so many. And so big, and a lot of them, they're either incels or they're like really young boys who just don't, understand women yet.
Yeah, they're learning. And listen to this advice. Don't be friends with girls.
It's just weird.
Don't be nice to them unless they're gonna do something for you.
It's just weird. If a guy has a lot of girlfriends and
does that mean if a girl's walking into a door, you don't open it for her because she didn't do something for you?
Kind of how he is.
That's what that sounds like to me. That's just absolute it's just bad manners.
It's just
number one. And I can tell you what, if a guy is going to get a lot further with a girl if he's chivalrous. Now, I think men do need to manage. I think they need to manage their investment in women if they're interested in them.
1000%.
So I will say that.
Yeah.
Because there are women that will do the lunch dates or the dinner dates, and they have no intention of being with these guys. So they are highlighting a real issue for men, but
Exactly,
the solution is really flawed. The logic behind it is really flawed. Men need to do a better job sussing out if a woman is actually into them.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll get more leverage that way. Look, if you're just leading if you're doing what they tell you to do and you're just leading with your money all the time, you're going to get a girl that just wants you for your money.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's going to make it harder to rule those people out. It's going to make it, they say don't do I think they said don't do coffee dates or don't do lunch dates with these girls or on a first date or something like that, or it was something along those lines. And I think that would be a great idea for guys to do actually, because you're not investing a lot financially. And if she's actually interested in you, that's
She'll
not going to, she'll go on a coffee date with
you. For sure. God, I just had a thought about that. What were we just talking about?
It happens all the time. I do this a million times a day.
I had a really good point to make, and now it's just
it'll come back around.
This is what it is. So my thing too is, well, why not just be nice to everybody? Why don't we have so why do we have to make it about gender? Why don't you just be nice to everybody? And then if the person doesn't reciprocate it, then just stop talking to them.
That just sounds like pain when I hear it. I'm somebody hurt you.
Oh, somebody hurt them. Their moms. I would like to actually interview their mothers. Have you tried doing that?
Oh my God, that would be such a great idea.
I will fly out here and get some of their moms on the show.
That would be such a good idea. They don't
with them in the room.
Yeah, they don't really talk about the women in their life.
Well,
outside of
yeah, their slutty ex or something. But my thing is
I don't think they have exes.
Right. Well, my thing is, how do you sit there and talk about older women the way that you do and respect your mom? Because your mom's older.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
That's a really good point.
My mom.
I wonder how they come to terms with that actually. How do they do they look at would they look at her any less because do they treat her less than because now she's old and now she's not fertile anymore?
Yeah.
That's a great point.
Yeah, it's just there's so many alarming things when you watch the show. But And my parents got divorced, and my mom had 4 kids, and so she did, have children. But now is she worthless? Is that what they're trying to say? Is that all moms are worthless, like once they do their thing? And what I will say is, if you do just follow blindly what this red pill community tells you, which is just have kids and don't do anything else, you will feel worthless when you get divorced at 40, 50 years old and have nothing, because other than your kids, obviously, which is the best gift that you could have, I have a lot of friends that are going through the same thing, because I come from a smaller town where a lot of people get married and have kids, and they're hitting 30. And they're like, oh, shit, I missed out. All the fun that I was supposed to have, or not even fun. It could be education or traveling or figuring out what I want out of life. I just missed it. And all I did was have kids. And not that it's bad to have kids, because it's not. But I think we have to find a happy medium.
I think that you want to connect to your purpose as a woman.
Yeah.
And some women, their purpose, what they really desire, is to be a wife or a mother. And there's nothing wrong with that. But some women like myself, want something else.
Well, I would even argue that my friends from back home who thought that was what they wanted now are saying they wish they would have done it a little differently.
Yeah.
Not that they didn't want to be a mom, but that they maybe could have had slowed down or just waited a couple more years, or made sure they finished school first, or just done a little extra for themselves before they just said, no, I just want kids. So, and for me, I waited because I saw what happened with my mom, and I was like, I just don't want that to happen to me. And I waited, and maybe I'll wait forever for the right guy. But so then I also do have my thing where I want kids, but I don't regret waiting. That's the thing. Thank God I can freeze my eggs, but if I couldn't, I would just figure it out.
I know.
really quick.
For me, I definitely wasted time, and it's a regret that I have. But what's the alternative? And that's kind of what I would pose on them. Like, I got married at the statistical age that I should have gotten married, and everything was going according to plan. But he decided to leave one day. He left.
That is what I'm saying. That's usually what it is.
He left.
Yeah.
He left, and then I had to start over, being later, like in my 30s. Like, I would think I was like 32.
Wow, that's
32
crazy.
or 33. God, I don't even remember.
You look, I thought you were maybe like 31.
We'll go with that.
That's crazy.
But what we but then I was left, like, I had a whole life building a whole thing around this person, and then I had to redirect.
Exactly.
Now, that wasn't something that I had any kind of control over. I did everything that I could to make sure that didn't happen. But if I look back, like, I should have never been with him. Like, that, like, I had ownership in that as well. I should not have been with this person, and I knew better. But we, like, not all relationships play out statistically. Like, where most people, and here's the hardcore truth, most people are with the wrong person.
Yeah.
And we don't know that right away.
Most married people.
I see it firsthand. I see it
Me
firsthand.
too.
Like, those pictures on Facebook, those happy couples, they're not so happy.
Well, I worked in nightlife. I have an OnlyFans, like I said. And let me just tell you that married men, you can tell.
Do they slide into your DMs?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And when I did bottle service too, and it's like they're too deep in. They just made this decision really young, and it's not good for the wife, and it's not good for either of them, because neither of them are happy, obviously. So, yeah, I just don't think everything's so black and white. But
It's not.
Yeah.
It's not. A lot of men too, they're not straight.
I was like, where's she going with that?
That
was good comedic timing right there. I was like ready for you to say something meaningful and powerful. Like, it is meaningful and powerful.
But it's true though. There a lot of men, and this is a real dynamic that men have to face. It's harder for men to express their sexuality if they're interested in the same sex.
Yeah.
There's more shame around that, and so it's harder for them to express. So you'll see them being in more traditional gender roles, and yet they have to seek something out on the down low. And so I've seen that happen as well. I've counseled many people that are married, and they have, but they're interested in the same sex.
Interesting.
Yeah. So there's so many different dynamics, I think, to, consider. And like you said, it's not so black and white, but they paint it like it's just so easy, like it's just so black and white. Like if you get married young, if you do this, that somehow that's going to secure you success, somehow that's going to make you happy.
They're taking a period, sorry to interrupt you, but they're taking a period from like 1910 to like 1950.
Yeah.
And they're glorifying it as if it was a great time.
Yeah.
There might have been like 10 years, I think, after World War One. Was that the Roaring 20s?
I don't even know.
I just took my history class. I'm back in school.
I really sucked at history. I'm not the one to ask.
OnlyFans pays for my school. It's going to get me into law school.
Okay.
Yeah, I got to finish first.
Are you going to be a lawyer?
That's
Is that
what
what you
I'm
want
studying for?
Fuck yeah, good for you.
It was something I was pursuing when I was younger.
Okay.
And then I was like, after that relationship, I was like, bro.
Good for you, man.
I had to go party for a little bit, and then now I'm back.
That's
back
okay.
at it. But yeah, so they're taking a time period that was very short, very brief, and very miserable. The men were drinking up a storm during that time period. That's why the prohibition happened, because the men were being so belligerently drunk all the time and beating their wives. That's how the prohibition happened. So they're taking a time period that was miserable and they're glorifying it as if it was the best time ever. It just really wasn't.
Well, they call it it's called the appeal to tradition. It's called a logical fallacy.
Yeah, the appeal to tradition.
It's a logical fallacy that Red Pill does, and what they do is they say, well, because this is
That's
how
a law school thing, girl.
I should have fucking been an attorney, man, or a private investigator. I should have been one of those too. I think all women can be privatized. We're really good at that.
Unfortunately, I'm a little crazy.
But it's called appeal to tradition, and this is what Red Pill does, is they will say, well, this is how it's always been. And therefore, but this is what they use to qualify it as something good. Well, just because that's how it's been doesn't mean it was good or healthy or even worked. Because if you look back at that, there was also a lack of a woman's ability to choose, right? We couldn't even fucking vote.
Yeah.
Okay. And so there was a lack of freedom in how people were making decisions. And so, but they leave that part out and they're like, well, this is how it is, so it must have worked. No, like not at all. Well, if you get married young, then it works. Like if you have a low body count, then it works. These things are absolutely ridiculous, and there's nothing to back it up with. And then they throw a random stat out there that says, well, this is why you should, women in marriages. Well, yeah, but you want to know why?
Yeah.
And they're like, no, we don't want to know why. You in marriages. And so they're only interested in painting a narrative of women that is, I think, very derogatory and very negative. And when I see somebody doing a one-sided argument like that, I think you need to pay really close attention to those dynamics, because that's not somebody that's actually trying to have a conversation with you. That's why when girls go on that podcast, it frustrates me, because I'm like, you're not actually going to have a dialogue.
No, but you can't have a good conversation.
I've done a few.
Yeah.
I've done a few, and now I refuse to do it. They're trying to get me to go back and do some more, but like I refuse, because I'm like, nobody is actually trying to hear my perspective. Nobody is.
And then if you yell, or if you get frustrated, you're masculine.
Yeah, or I'm crazy,
Yeah.
or I'm not emotionally regulated. And the thing is that here's another thing with that. Yeah, women have emotions, and that's not bad. They're demonizing and villainizing us as if we can't have emotions or express emotions.
Men are way more emotional than women. It's just they are not as good at expressing them. Men will have an emotion that sits in their brain for like 5-10 years. I was just talking about this with my best guy friend. He was telling me that men struggle with breakups for way longer than women. And just because of the way that they process. I mean, this is not like a statistic or anything, but he was just saying from his experience, it takes him like sometimes 5-10 years to get over girls, because he doesn't really process them at the same speed that a woman does. And I was gonna say also, it's also just not always how it's been, depending on which culture you're in. It's not always been the traditional way. Yes, of course, women are the ones that bear the children, but I really am into Celtic culture.
Okay.
And the women actually in their culture were the only spiritual leaders. So they, when they were going to fight a war, and hopefully I'm not like misquoting anything, but when they would go to fight a war, they would consult the women who were the spiritual leaders before they would go to the war. And the women were allowed to fight in the wars. So And then you have, people like Cleopatra.
Mm-hmm.
It's not true that that's always how it's been. There's different types of women, just like there's different types of men.
I guess culture is a really important thing to consider, right?
Yeah.
Because different cultures, there's matriarchy, even in the animal kingdom, right?
Yeah.
Elephants, the moms, the women are the ones that rule the roost there.
Yeah.
So that is a
So
really
from
good
a
point.
scientific perspective, it doesn't even make sense. And then I'm not trying to sound like a weirdo nerd right now, but I just finished my anthropology course too as well. And you look at a bunch of different types of cultures where there's just, everything is different in every culture. It's really just not, it's not just that's the way that it's supposed to be. And then you could argue, okay, well, that's the way that it is in the Bible, but it's not really, it's just the way that the church pushed it on everybody.
You know what's so funny about the Bible is I got into like a little battle with somebody that wanted to be a keyboard warrior in my comments.
Mm-hmm.
And I probably shouldn't have commented back, but sometimes
I always do it.
Sometimes I can't help myself.
I'm really bad.
So this guy, it was about like monogamy. Oh God, I think I screenshotted it. It was so fucking funny. I need to find this because it was so good. He had said, we were talking about monogamy, and he had said that monogamy doesn't make sense, and it's been going on for the dawn of time, right?
Okay.
And that, even the Bible supports the fact that men had multiple wives and multiple concubines. And so I clapped back and I said, God only gave Adam one woman.
Ooh, that's a good
Eve.
one. Yeah.
He only gave him Eve. And he clapped back with, he put so much effort into this, which was funny when people do this.
Mm-hmm.
He literally referenced like 13 concubines. So Moses had 3 wives, 14 concubines, and it goes down the list of all these people, da-da-da. And I just wrote back, right, what man gave versus what God gave versus what man did.
Yeah, that was the Old Testament too.
That's the difference is like, and I'm not trying to get all spiritual on this, but like, his example and what Red Pill does is just, it's not even biblically based or even
they cherry pick.
They do cherry pick it. Like if you really want to go biblical, it was one man and one woman. That was a monogamous relationship.
And they preach monogamy throughout the Bible too. So you can cherry pick whatever you want out of the Bible. And
I really think that if God had intended for men to, I think, why didn't he give him 2 or 3 or 4 Eves?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, he could have done it, right? Like, I don't think that would have been a big ask for God, so, so again, there's a big difference between what God gave versus what man did and how men interprets things. So
yeah,
I'm not sure how deep you want to go into that, but I thought it was a good thing to kind of like, consider.
Well, it's also, so if we're going to talk about the Bible, you can't just pick out the monogamy.
The part that you like.
Yeah, you have to read all the other stuff, how you're supposed to act, dude.
Yeah. And another thing biblically based is it says, women are supposed to honor their husbands, and
but it says why men are supposed to honor their wives.
It does. It's reciprocal.
Yeah.
And it's reciprocal.
Mm-hmm.
And the Bible isn't saying, ladies, tolerate a man that disrespects you.
No.
He's saying, if you love this woman, you'll be good to her.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's what it's saying. The Bible isn't saying stick around for a man that disrespects you. At no point in time does the Bible ever say you need to tolerate abusive, bad, or disrespectful behavior either, just for the sake of his name. Because, like, if we want to get biblical with it, there's nothing about that would actually glorify God.
Yeah. The man is supposed to be the spiritual head of the household. And I grew up in this environment. The man is supposed to be the spiritual head of the household and is supposed to cater to his woman. And he sets the example for everybody else. So if you're a man and you are a spiritual leader, I guarantee you, when you're treating your woman with kindness and respect, and your children with kindness and respect, and the people around you with kindness and respect, and you're providing and you're protecting, unless the girl that you're with is the worst human being on earth, which is a different issue, she's going to be submissive to you. And I think that is something culturally that we've lost, especially in America, is that ability for men to just really be men. And so that I was excited to maybe touch on that with them because I thought we could find some common ground there. But then I was like, oh no, they don't really believe what they're saying.
I don't think that they do. I think a lot of what they're doing right now is clickbait.
Yeah, that is what it is.
Yeah, I think a lot of it's clickbait. I think a lot of it they're doing for like an interaction. Especially, have you seen Pearly Things?
Oh my God, I can't.
She's the biggest grifter I've ever seen.
Bro, I cannot. She's had one relationship.
I don't even think it was a real relationship, honestly. I think they like, I don't.
I'll listen to her if she's still saying the same thing when she's 33, 32.
This is a woman that has like internalized her self-hatred, I think.
I think she really just likes the attention that she's getting.
She does. Absolutely.
She's never gotten it
It's
before.
the only validation she's getting.
I mean, I'm just going to be mean to her because she's mean to everybody else. She's never gotten it before because she's not that pretty and she doesn't really have a great personality. So the way that she's just the biggest, like, it's just the biggest attention whore that I've ever seen in my entire life.
She's also never like lived out any of these principles. Like she has all the freedoms that she says that she doesn't want. I believe that she doesn't really need to work because her parents, I think, are pretty wealthy.
Yeah.
It doesn't. And she's giving relationship advice to women, but again,
she's never been in a relationship.
Hasn't been in a relationship,
and that's the biggest thing. I just don't like her because I've seen some of the way that she talks to women and degrades women, and that shit bothers me.
She says that men are smarter than women.
Yeah, she's speaking about herself. She's right. She's speaking from her own perspective. And
like,
some men are smarter than some women.
Yeah, like, but that's when you make broad generalization. Like, there are some men that are smarter than some women, and there are some women that are smarter than some men.
That statement is so stupid.
It's just clickbaity. Like, that's the thing. She's only doing it because she's like, I want, like, saying women shouldn't vote, right? Like, it's just a clickbaity thing.
Oh, I went super viral for saying that. So before I even went on the podcast, I had seen some of these, and so I went and I did, like, as a joke, I did a street interview where I just said all these terrible things about women. I mean, it was so obvious that I was being sarcastic, and I went so viral. And I actually thought about, maybe I'll still do it, I thought about like doing a Pearl thing, but just making it so obnoxious that you weren't sure if it was like satire or real, because it worked. I mean, this video probably did like 100 million across all platforms.
Wow.
People meet me and like they know who I am from the video, because I said women shouldn't be able to. What did I say? I'll have to send it to you.
Send it to me.
It was so stupid. I just pulled it right out of my ass.
But like a lot of the stuff that you're seeing in Red Pill, they don't even buy it, guys.
Yeah.
Like they're just a lot of this is it's predatory behavior. I don't know any other way to explain that. They're preying on a vulnerability. There is a real need for some teaching in this community for men that are not successful. I believe that. But like, what solutions are they actually offering besides money and muscle and this and that? Like, what you really want to be focused on is how to attract loving partnerships, how to have a better relationship with yourself, right? It's not this like you own me mentality, because if you don't like women, if you're anti-women, if you have anger towards women, don't expect to find a good woman.
Yeah.
Why would a good woman land in your lap? Like, if you're not nice to women, why would a woman want to be with you? Why would a good woman want to be around you?
And then they're like, women just want you for your money. It's like, well, you're painting out the picture that we should only want you for your money.
If you are a guy and you are leading with your money, like they say, like, I think women need financial stability. I do think that they need that, but they also need a man to be good with his money. Okay.
Yeah.
So those are important qualities. They're not off there, but if that is the only value you think you're bringing, and you have to, oh my God, I went on a date with this guy one time, and I didn't think that he felt very good about himself. And he takes his wad of cash out and slaps it on the dinner table and leaves it there like it's his wallet. And I was like, I was such a turnoff for me.
That's so gross.
It was such a turnoff for me. But if you're leading, and that's what I mean by like leading with your money, like, what kind of car should I pick you up in today? This one or this one, you know?
I have a video on a funny video from Bumble on my Instagram where I made a joke about that, because this guy was like with his cash. And I was like, see, I need to go meet with this guy and tell him, or when you lead with your money, girls are just going to want you for your cash. All the girls that swipe, right on him are just going to want his money. And that's what I'm going to tell him at our date on Thursday. Because it's true. But, you definitely want a guy that works hard and, but the money comes and goes. I think for me, it's just somebody who knows how to do life well.
Yeah,
at least at my level.
Yeah, and like you want to know that a guy that you can build with him. But like, I think quality women, they're not just looking to use a man for his money. They're willing to build with you.
In fact, I would much rather make money with somebody. Mm-hmm. I don't want actually to date somebody with more money. Too much more money, maybe a little more. Because the power dynamic is just too off.
Yeah, scary a little bit.
Yeah, I've done it before. And then I just feel stupid around them. Like, oh, maybe I'm not good enough to be with them. That's what I think. And it's not really enjoyable when somebody's making millions and you're like wondering how you're going to pay rent.
Yeah.
Not anymore. I'm good now. I got OnlyFans. No nudity, but you can still go on there.
Well, Mac, we are actually going to have to come to a close.
Oh, wow, that went by fast.
I know, it did. It's so easy to just kind of get lost in it.
I looked at you so much. I'm used to looking at the camera, so.
Yeah, I know. I get lost in it too. Like, hi. But I want to thank you so much for coming on. Can you please tell everybody where they can find you and what you're up to?
Yeah, so you guys can find me at Big Mac Lawson on all major platforms. You can also find my podcast, Mac After Dark, on all major platforms. And check my Instagram. I am a stand-up comedian. I do stand-up all over the country, kind of all over the world, and you'll see in a couple of years I'll be
beautiful,
famous.
funny, and smart. So I want to thank you again so much for coming on, guys. Until next time, pop the pink pill.